Walking into a room and forgetting why. You're carrying a cup of coffee. You walk into the kitchen, and then nothing. Your mission has completely vanished. You stand there staring into space like a computer that's suddenly frozen. The weird part, just a few seconds ago you knew exactly why you came in. So where did that thought go? Did your memory fail? Not exactly. Researchers have found something fascinating. Your brain naturally divides life into separate events. One moment ends, another begins. And surprisingly, doorways often act like mental boundaries. When you walk into a new room, your brain treats it as a new chapter. Some of the information from the previous chapter becomes harder to access. It's called the event boundary effect. Imagine your brain organizing memories into folders. Crossing a doorway is like closing one folder and opening another. Most of the time, this system helps you stay organized, but occasionally, it leaves you standing in the kitchen wondering why you're there. So you didn't forget because your memory failed. You forgot because your brain changed contexts. Checking your phone with no notifications. The average person checks their phone dozens of times every day. But some of those checks happen for a very strange reason. Nothing happened, no vibration, no sound, no notification. Yet somehow your hand has already unlocked the screen. The strange part. You weren't even expecting a message, so why check? Most people assume they're looking for information. But that's usually not what's happening. Your brain hates uncertainty, even tiny amounts of it. Maybe someone texted. Maybe something happened online, maybe there's something new. That tiny possibility creates anticipation, and anticipation is powerful. Researchers believe uncertainty can sometimes be more mentally engaging than certainty itself. Your brain starts seeking resolution. The fastest way to get it. Check the phone. Most of the time, nothing exciting happens. But occasionally something does. And your brain remembers those moments. Which is why you can check your phone 5 times in 10 minutes, even when absolutely nothing has changed. Opening the fridge for no reason. At this point, refrigerators must be deeply confused. Some people open the door, look inside, close it, walk away. And then come back 2 minutes later and do exactly the same thing again. The weird part, you already knew what was inside, nothing magically appeared. The fridge didn't receive a software update, so why open it again? Most people think they are looking for food, often they're not. They are looking for stimulation. Your brain is constantly scanning for novelty, something interesting, something rewarding. Something different from what you're currently doing. The refrigerator becomes a tiny possibility machine. Maybe there's a snack, maybe there's a drink. Maybe there's something satisfying, usually there isn't. But the possibility itself is enough to pull your attention. It's the same reason people scroll social media even when they are bored of social media. Your brain isn't chasing the thing. It's chasing the possibility of the thing. So sometimes you aren't hungry, you're just curious. And curiosity can be surprisingly powerful. Looking for something you're already holding. Have you ever searched for your phone while holding your phone? Or looked for your glasses while wearing them? If so, congratulations, you're officially human. The funny part is that it feels impossible. How could you not notice something that's already in your hand? But here's what your brain is doing. Your attention isn't focused on the object itself, it's focused on the goal. Find the phone, find the keys, find the glasses. When attention becomes locked onto a goal, your brain can sometimes overlook information that's already available. Your eyes saw it. Your brain just wasn't paying attention to it. The result? You become a detective investigating the location of an object that's currently touching your fingers. So the problem wasn't vision. The problem was attention. Googling symptoms and assuming the worst. A mild headache, that's it, just a headache. But then you search what causes a mild headache. 3 minutes later, you're fully convinced you have a rare disease that only 17 people in the entire world have ever been diagnosed with. Sound familiar? Almost everyone has done this at least once. The strange part is that most of us know Google tends to highlight the worst-case scenarios. But we still believe it anyway. Why? Because the brain is built to detect threats. From a survival perspective, missing a danger is far worse than overreacting to one. If your ancestors heard a rustle in the bushes, it was safer to assume there was a predator, rather than assume everything was fine. That same bias still exists today. The only difference is that bushes have been replaced by Google, and lions have been replaced by scary medical articles. Psychologists call this catastrophizing. The brain jumps straight to the worst-case scenario, not because it wants to scare you, but because it's trying to protect you. Just a little too aggressively. Checking if the door is locked again. You lock the doors, you remember locking the door. You're pretty sure you locked the door. So why are you halfway back to check it again? The mystery is that your memory already has the answer. Yet your brain still wants verification. Why? Because confidence and memory aren't the same thing. Sometimes repetitive actions become automatic. You lock the door while thinking about work, or dinner, or tomorrow's meeting. Later the action feels fuzzy, not because it didn't happen. Because you weren't fully paying attention when it happened. Your brain notices the missing certainty, and suddenly it wants proof. That's why checking again often feels relieving, at least temporarily. Replaying embarrassing moments at night. 2 a.m., everything is quiet, you're getting ready to fall asleep, and then out of nowhere, your brain decides to replay a memory from 2017. A memory you haven't thought about in years. Maybe it was the time you accidentally called your teacher mom. Maybe it was a joke that nobody laughed at. Suddenly that memory comes back in 4K quality, crisp audio, full detail. The strange part is no one else remembers it anymore, but your brain does very clearly. Psychologists believe this is related to something called negativity bias. The brain tends to prioritize negative experiences over positive ones. Not because it wants to make you suffer, but because mistakes often contain important survival lessons. But here's the interesting part. When you recall an embarrassing moment, you usually judge it as much more serious than other people do. This phenomenon is called the spotlight effect. We tend to think people are paying way more attention to us than they actually are, when in reality, most people are too busy worrying about their own embarrassing moments. Looking at yourself in reflections. Humans do something surprisingly often. Every time we pass a reflective surface we look, a window, a mirror, a store display, a parked car. Something reflective appears, and we immediately check. The strange part. Most of the time we're not even consciously deciding to do it. Why? Because humans are highly self-aware social creatures. Part of your brain is constantly monitoring how you appear to others, how you look, how you present yourself, how you're being perceived. A quick glance into a reflection provides instant feedback. Everything okay, hair okay, face okay, still looking human. It's a tiny social calibration system running in the background, and almost everyone does it. Not because they're vain, because they're social. So the next time you catch yourself looking into a reflection, remember, you're not admiring yourself. You're checking your place in the social world around you.